Nothing will. So good morning again and welcome on this wonderful July 4th. We're so grateful to be able to celebrate freedom, to have been blessed with freedom on all levels. So this week we're continuing with the Eric Butterworth series on the 7 main aspects of truth, or what he calls the 7 laws of metaphysics. So far, we've looked at the law of being, the law of unfoldment, the law of attraction, the law of faith, and today we're covering the law of love and non-resistance. If you've missed any of these or would like to review them, you can find them on our unityspiritualcenter.org website under Sunday services or on our Unity Spiritual Center Asbury, New Jersey Facebook page. Now, Eric tells us that there are many facets to the jewel of truth. And in this series, he covers what he considers the 7 laws that are fundamental yet simple. The foundation to all of these laws is the law of oneness. And the law that we're covering today is the law of love and non-resistance, which is really closely related to the law of oneness. Eric said it's crucial to understand and work the law of love so that it can develop into a way of life. Paul in 1 Corinthians says, of all the things you have, if you do not have love, you are nothing. It's a really strong statement. If you do not have love, you are nothing. Now, Eric said that love is probably the single most misunderstood word, concept, or ideal in the whole realization of truth, in the whole spiritual experience. Because of our conditioning, we've come to assume that love is an emotion and pertains to affairs of the heart, and that it's something to be found outside ourselves. But that's far from the truth. Love can only truly be found within. The author and philosopher Pierre de Chardin says that love is the total realization of life, the completeness of life. And Jesus tells us again and again to love one another. Now, this is based on the fundamental principle that we are made of love. We are here to express love. And if we don't do that, then we're not complete. And we're out of sync with the divine process. However, when our consciousness is raised to that love, to knowing and being that love, then we function from the level of divine completeness. Professor Sorokin, a sociologist, was a boy during the Russian Revolution. He explains that because of the horrible experiences he had as a boy, he had every reason to hate. Yet he says of that whole period, the one thing he remembers best is love. He tells us that when he was a boy, his family was very poor. And he used to make the long trek to and from school through the snow in the bitter cold with his feet only wrapped in rags because he didn't have shoes, he didn't have boots. The teacher saw this, gave the boy a pair of boots. And the boy insisted that he couldn't take them. The teacher said to him, "Why should I have 2 pairs of boots when you have none?" Now that event stuck in his mind. And with that realization, he was able to endure everything that he experienced and forget all the difficulties and injustices. He says, in this little vignette, I remember it, and it gives me hope for the world today. He concluded that within every person, there is a reality that he called creative altruism. Not only was he centered in that, he created a department at Harvard where he was the professor and department head of the department he started called creative altruism. Now, Eric tells a similar story. When he was 14 and living in Long Beach, California, there was an earthquake of an enormous proportion. It took years to recover from that earthquake. But what Eric remembers was that there was a sense of thoughtfulness, kindness, and friendliness that he had never seen before. Things like if you were walking down the street, a car would stop to see if you needed a lift. People were asking each other if they could help each other with something. And what he realized was deep within each person was this divine love. Now, one of my favorite movies of the 90s was Starman. It starred Jeff Bridges, and some of you might be familiar with it. He plays a character that was an alien that somehow got stuck on Earth. And through his time, he got to observe mankind, humankind. Towards the end of the movie, he said, "Shall I tell you what I find beautiful about you? You are at your very best when things are worst." Now, I don't know about you. We've all lived through tragedies. We've all lived through times where this amazing beingness of love within us rose to the surface, and we lived from that point. I remember, I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived through several blackouts. During those blackouts, people came out of the streets and helped each other. People were giving others lifts across the Brooklyn Bridge or wherever they needed to go. During 9/11, that tragedy, people rose. We were not separate. We were one. And that is within each of us. We have this deep undercurrent of love, which is our true nature. We are at our very best when things are at their worst, because that's when we need to call up that love even stronger. Our humanity, our ego selves cover that up. And it creates a kind of love that's based on reciprocity. A love that has to be earned. If you do this for me, then that means you love me and I'll do that back to you, for you. But that's not real love. That's the love of the ego. Love is omnipresent. It's a reality that is always in some way making its presence known. And until we realize this inner force of love, we can never know completeness, wholeness, or fulfillment. We spend so much time looking for love outside ourselves, looking for it in another person, but it's within us. And until we realize that, we remain on an unending search. We've also looked at love as a kind of approval. Certain people are lovable and others are not. We give this approval only as long as that person remains lovable in our lives. It's what Jesus in the Course in Miracles calls special love and special hate. We love someone until they do something that we don't like, and then we hate them. That's the love created by the ego, not the love that's inherent in each of us. Now, as some of you know, I love Shakespeare. And in Shakespeare's Sonnet 116, which I've used in some wedding ceremonies, it says, "Love is not which alters when its alteration finds." Now, what he's saying here, what Shakespeare is saying, is that love is changeless. If you stop loving someone because something changes, then it wasn't love. Nothing can change the love that is inherent within each of us. And we're here to express that, to extend that love. Now, all of Jesus's teachings are centered on love. In Matthew 5:43, Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy." Now, the old Mosaic law was the law that, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. That's what Jesus is referring here. But what he's saying is that it's not enough to love those who love you. It's not enough to just love your neighbors. You must love every person. And he ends that with, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father. So what he's saying it so that you will know your oneness with God, so that you will be living from the truth of your Creator. Love is a constant within each of us because God is a constant within each of us. But as Paul says in Romans 8:14, for all who are being led by the Spirit of God, these are sons and daughters of God. Once again, it's aligning ourselves with that truth, with that spirit within us that is love. Because God is love, and then we are truly children of God, expressing that love in the world. Eric says the whole point of living is to love, not because someone deserves it, but because we deserve it. We cannot be full, cannot be healthy, cannot have contact with that power that makes us succeed or be fulfilled in every area of our lives unless we love and remain in that consciousness of love. Love is an inner power, an inner awareness that we can connect to and turn on at any time. Yeah, there are cases when conditions around us may not have provided the environment for this love to unfold. But we can realize right now, right here today, that no matter what happened back then, we have within us this divine love. Jeremiah 31:3 says, the Lord appeared to us in the past, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Everlasting. Everlasting. Nothing can ever take it away. Nothing can ever change it. That love is inherent within each of us. When we cultivate the awareness of the depth of love within us, we can release more and more, not only become aware of the tremendous depth of our ability to love and express that love, but to be aware of the depth from which we feel loved. Because love is the force within ourselves. And as we extend love, it becomes more prominent and more aware within us. So the more love we feel. In the Sermon on the Mount, recorded in Matthew 5:29, Jesus says, if the right hand causes thee to stumble, cut it off. And if the right eye causes thee to stumble, pluck it out. Now, Jesus doesn't mean this literally. What he's saying is if there's anything in our consciousness, any resistance that is blocking the natural flow of love, get rid of it. Jesus is talking about resistance. Resistance, any resistance that we may experience is within our own consciousness. The incident is external, but the reaction is our own. Resistance is never caused by anything external. Resistance is how we react to something that has occurred. So that's what Jesus is talking about in this statement. If you're reacting negatively to something, then pluck your eye out, cut off your hand. And that's metaphorically saying, get rid of those things in consciousness that is blocking the flow of love. Could be unforgiveness, could be old, unhealed wounds. Get rid of them so that you can love. You can enable this flow of love to continue. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, used to say, love is not the plaything of human volition, but the action of divine law. Don't try to love, because to try to love is not to love. Trying is an attempt to conjure up something. But love is not a feeling or an emotion, it's a state of being. Love is the natural, fundamental, divine flow that is within and deeply rooted within each of us. The need for us is to eliminate from consciousness all the barriers that keep this love from expressing naturally through us. Now, this is where non-resistance come in. Non-resistance is another way of referring to love in action. If you become resistant towards a person or a situation, the resistance is your inability to accept that person or see them through the eyes of love. Now, this resistance becomes not only a defense against them, but it becomes a poison to us because it blocks us off from that divine flow. Non-resistance comes from an awareness of the love that's deeply rooted within ourselves. We need to keep ourselves open and receptive to this divine flow within us. And it's a constant attempt to release anything that causes us to react in a negative way. So the law of non-resistance is simply another important facet of the law of love. The thing is, we always have a choice. We can choose to resist and react to something negatively, or we can offer more love, more light, more understanding. And when we do that, we enhance ourselves too. Non-resistance comes from an understanding and desire to sustain that flow of love within us. Non-resistance is that fundamental law by which we continually work to eliminate all the blocks, all the obstructions, so that we can keep open to the flow of love. And it takes effort. It takes awareness. It takes willingness. It takes desire. It takes effort, discipline, and practice. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a habit that whenever I react negatively to something, I stop and look at, where is this coming from? What's inside of me that's causing me to react like this or to have this thought? And I had the opportunity to experience that and work on that last weekend. A friend of mine was hosting some friends from out of town and invited me to join them at her pool. Now, it wasn't long before I realized that I functioned very differently from them in terms of opinions, thoughts, and behavior. And I found myself moving into judgment. And as I did that, I stopped and I just looked at my own thoughts and realized that I was judging. So I let go of those judgments. I stopped, my initial reaction was, time for me to go home. And then I thought, no, this is a perfect opportunity for me to love. So I sat there and I enjoyed them and I changed my judgment to a state of allowance, to non-resisting, to just being with them as other extensions of God's love. I opened my heart and I extended this love to each of them. I consciously saw my love extending from myself and I offered it to them. And in doing that, I healed myself. And then I went on and we had a wonderful time, lots of laughing. Our opinions and our behaviors are very different, but I affirm the Christ in them. And I affirm that they are blessed and beings of light, just like me, just like all of us. Now, resistance is not about denying the reality around us. I didn't deny that we had different approaches to life, different behaviors, different ideas and views. But what I saw was the ability to see past those perceived differences. So again, resistance not about denying the reality of what's going on in the world around us. It's about opening up to truth and focusing on that. What we resist persists. If we resist something, we give it power. Job 3:25 says, the thing I feared the most has come upon me, and that which I was afraid has come unto me. When we fear something, we draw it to us. When we resist something, it continues. That which we resist persists. Now, what the basis of that is, we usually resist something we don't understand. But all understanding leads to love. And again, using my analogy of last weekend, I didn't understand their points of view. I didn't understand how they did certain things or could behave in certain ways. But I saw past that. And I rose to the understanding that there was no difference between myself and them because we were all children of God. You know, someone once said, if I knew you and you knew me, we would love each other. And that's because we don't really see the other person. We see through the eyes of perception and prejudice because we all have biases, many of which we're not even aware of. When I was able to see past our differences and affirm that there was no difference between them and me, then love was unconditional. And the extension of that love allowed it to come back. All of our prejudices and biases get in our way. We come with these preconceived notions and expectations, and that stands in our way of loving. The law of non-resistance is that if we can eliminate all the things that keep us from radiating and extending the love and light which we are, then all those prejudices will disappear. And then we can see each other as a child of God, just like us. Now, this happens because the greatest change happens within us. Nothing out there has changed. We change in here. We've risen above, and now we can see clearly through the eyes of love. Love is the great totalizer, the great equalizer. Love, which is that which enables us to experience and enter into the consciousness of divine completion. There is something within us that longs for completion, longs for fulfillment, longs for wholeness. And the way there is through extending and living the love that we are. Love is that source of power within us that can change us. And when we change ourselves, we see the world around us changing. So right now, I invite you to allow yourselves to get comfortable in your seats as we move into meditation. I invite you to take a deep breath and let it out. And just allow yourselves to get very comfortable in your seats. Focus only on your breath. And feel yourself relaxing more and more with each breath you take. Your breath becomes steady. It slows down as you continue to relax. And you breathe at a comfortable pace for you. I know that nothing is more important than the flow of divine love within me. I know that love is all around me, and it starts within me, right here, right now, and always. Because God is present everywhere, in all ways, at all times. This great love of which I am is within me, around me. It supports me and allows me to heal. And in my own healing, this force of love becomes even more powerful and more prominent. And I am able to extend this out into the world. I am able to extend this love without prejudice, without bias, without preconceived notions. I am able to extend this love knowing that this is the truth about me and of all humanity. I don't deny what I see going on around me, and I do not condone bad behavior. I resist judgment. I resist unloving thoughts and release them so that I can live from the true state of the love of which I am. So right here, right now, in this moment, I affirm and allow this divine expression of love that I am to move through me as I extend it to all. And now I allow myself to move deeper and deeper into the silence. And if there is anything that blocks this flow of love, if there is any unhealed, anything within me, any unforgiveness, any resentment, any prejudice, I bring it now to the Holy Spirit and release it to the Holy Spirit so that it's gone forever and I can live from this place of love. So now I move deeper and deeper into the silence and I just listen. And now I invite you to bring to mind anyone who may be in need of prayer. All those on our Unity healing list, our Unity prayer list, on Silent Unity. and in the greater circle of the world. We affirm that there's a power and a presence within them that will see them through any difficulty that they are experiencing on any level. We affirm that they draw to themselves the perfect health practitioners, support systems that will be with them in the world to help them move through whatever difficulty they're experiencing. But most of all, we affirm that unending divinity within each of them, that never-ending divine love that is the truth of who they are. And now I invite you to bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So welcome back. It's at this time in our service where we have the opportunity to give. So I invite you to take your love offerings and hold them in your hand. If you use a credit card or PayPal or the donate button on our website, just visualize that. And we just affirm that we are so blessed. We are so blessed to be able to give and to receive. We are so blessed to be in this divine flow of love, this divine flow of abundance, this divine flow of prosperity. For we know that God only wants good for us. We know that God is our source and God consciousness is our supply. So by allowing ourselves to be in that never-ending flow of love, we open up to receive and we open up to give. And I invite you to bless these gifts with me. So with your mics muted, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I am open to receive, and I am grateful.
And in keeping with